Edward James Hughes, more commonly known as Ted Hughes, was a prominent 20th century British poet. Hughes was born in Michelmroyd, a small town in West Yorkshire, England. Though he lived in America for a short time, Hughes held close to his British roots and moved back to Britain, later claiming, "I'd rather eat mud than live in America." However, his sentiments against the United States were not all disdainful. At a college party, Ted Hughes met his first love, Sylvia Plath, an accomplished American poet. Their marriage was a complicated one, but Hughes loved Sylvia Plath very much. He even claimed that she inspired much of his poetry. But Sylvia Plath died by gassing herself in 1963. Many speculate that Hughes was the cause of Plath's depression because of his leaving her for another woman, Assia Weevil. Weevil, a German who escaped the Nazis, was also married during the affair with Hughes. Hughes had deep feelings for Assia. When he and Sylvia were married, Hughes wrote a poem about meeting Assia, stating, "That moment, the dreamer in me fell in love with her, and I soon knew it." 6 years after the suicide of Sylvia Plath, Weevil killed herself and her 4-year-old daughter, just as Sylvia had, by locking the kitchen windows and turning on the gas stove. The pair was later found dead on a mattress in the kitchen. Before receiving a degree from Cambridge, Hughes read Shakespeare extensively. He read and reread all of Shakespeare's works, and it was said that he could recite each one by heart. As Hughes tried to launch his career as a poet and children's writer, Hughes worked a variety of jobs to make ends meet, including being a night watchman, school teacher, zoo attendant, reader for J. Arthur Rank, and also planned to teach in Spain and then move to Australia. Because he was heavily influenced by hunting as a child, much of Hughes' poetry involves animals and nature. Hughes mainly wrote poetry, but he also wrote some novels, including The Iron Man, the basis for the children's movie The Iron Giant. His first book of poems was titled Hawk in the Rain. For this and other more famous works such as Crow, Hughes won many awards, including, and in the order of, the Harper Publication Contest, Guinness Poetry Award, Guggenheim Fellowship, Somerset Maugham Award, City of Florence International Poetry Prize, Premier International Tarma Prize, Queen's Gold Medal for Poetry, OBE, vote for the best writing in English in the New Poetry Poll, Whitbread Book of the Year, W.H. Smith Literature Award, Forward Prize for Poetry, Queen's Order of Merit, T.S. Eliot Prize for Poetry, South Bank Award for Literature, Whitbread Prize for Poetry, and the Whitbread Book of the Year again. Hughes was also a British Poet Laureate from 1984 until his death, one of the highest achievements for a poet. A fine example that illustrates Hughes as a nature poet is his poem Hawk Roosting, a dramatic monologue told from the perspective of a hawk at the top of a tree. The sound of forests and wildlife is played in the background to contribute to the mood and theme of the poem.
Hawk Roosting by Ted Hughes. I sit in the top of the wood, my eyes closed, in action. No falsifying dream between my hooked head and hooked feet, or in sleep rehearse perfect kills and eat. The convenience of the high trees, the air's buoyancy and the sun's ray are of advantage to me, and the earth's face upward for my inspection. My feet are locked upon the rough bark. It took the whole of creation to produce my foot, my each feather. Now I hold creation in my foot. Or fly up, and revolve it all slowly. I kill where I please, because it is all mine. There is no sophistry in my body. My manners are tearing off heads, the allotment of death. For the one path of my flight is direct through the bones of the living. No arguments assert my right. The sun is behind me. Nothing has changed since I began. My eye has permitted no change. I'm going to keep things like this.
This poem is interpreted in many different ways. One belief is that the hawk is a metaphor for mankind and its egocentricity. This point is refuted by the fact that the hawk is not affected by self-doubt, characteristic of the personalities of men. Others believed that the hawk's dominance was a tribute to fascism and totalitarianism, but Hughes publicly rejected this interpretation. Rather, Hughes intended for the hawk to be a metaphor for nature itself thinking. There is strong evidence to support this. The centrality of the hawk, illustrated in the lines "revolve it all around me" and "the sun is behind me," depicts the centrality of nature. Hughes uses the imagery of the hawk from the treetops to illustrate its importance, and the image is comparable to a king on a throne. Using metaphor, Hughes implies that the hawk, and thus nature itself, is godlike. After all, who other than God could have hold on creation? These literary devices contribute to the theme of the poem, that nature is all-powerful, and the poem's contemplative tone. All in all, Hughes was a dynamic and influential British poet, despite his many relationship problems. Hughes was a comprehensive author, capable of reaching the minds of children, and also capable of writing profound and meaningful poetry that applies to all of mankind. In addition to being a nature poet, Hughes also wrote on the problem of being, or in other words, the problem of human consciousness. Even today, Hughes' works are being unearthed, and he continues to influence British poetry, 13 years after his death.